In this video, I'm gonna grade and critique 3 different Upwork proposals and reveal to you the 4 core elements to every winning proposal. And in case you don't already know who I am, my name is Nico Hessel and I help freelancers sign high-paying clients on Upwork. I helped Adarsh sign over $16,000 worth of clients in his first 5 weeks inside our community. I helped Rabia sign her first ever client on Upwork, and I even helped Rodrigo sign a client worth over $4,000. And I've helped so many more just like them sign clients on Upwork. My team and I have submitted over 5,000 Upwork proposals. And the stuff I'm gonna share to you in this video has taken me years to learn. And so hopefully I can save you all of the time and all of the money that I spent sending all these proposals, and I can give you exactly what you need to know by the end of this video. So here are the 4 core factors that we're gonna be grading these proposals on. Number 1 is personalization. Do they include details that are mentioned in the job description inside their proposal? Number 2 is social proof. Do they have any sort of social proof inside of their proposal, and is it convincing? Number 3 is gonna be the call to action. So do they even have a call to action in the proposal? And if so, is it the right one? And number 4 is going to be the portfolio. And we're gonna be looking at if they even have links to their portfolio in their proposals. And I'm gonna be grading each of these factors on a scale of 1 to 3 stars. 1 being it's either not included at all or they did a horrible job. Number 2 being it's included, but it's not great and it could use improvement. And number 3 being it's included and they've mastered it. So with that being said, let's grab proposal number 1 from one of our community members, read it and critique it. So this proposal says, "Hey there, I couldn't help but find your proposal fascinating. I've been diving into the world of writing poetry, short stories, and capturing emotions and experiences. Over the past months, I've dedicated time to refining my craft, and now I feel ready to share my work. At this point, I have several poems, some completed, others in need of editing or finishing. I'd love to share them with you and explore a potential collaboration. My poetry focuses on themes of nostalgia, melancholy, change, and introspection, blending evocative imagery with a subtle narrative. In terms of structure, my work leans towards rhyme, adding a rhythmic flow to the emotions I aim to convey. I'm also open to refining my poems or creating new ones to align with your vision. Since experience and specific backgrounds aren't required, I see this as a great opportunity for both of us. I'd like to attach a fragment of one poem I wrote the last year with the vibe of the end something, looking back and accepting that it's over. With the aftermath of a broken situationship, if you're interested, I can share the whole poem so you guys dive even more in my style. I'd be thrilled if my work resonates with you and we can build a working relationship. Looking forward to discussing this further and collaborating. Best regards, Irvin." And for context for everybody, the job post was basically saying that they are looking to pay people in return for the people submitting poetry into this poetry club, right? So that's basically what the job is. Now, let's start grading this on a scale of 1 to 3 for each of the 4 core elements. And so first, we're gonna grade it on a scale of 1 to 3 for personalization. And this proposal honestly gets a 3 out of 3 for personalization. It is very, very personalized, right? You can see here, even in the first paragraph, Irvin immediately says, I've been diving into the world of writing poetry, right? And the job post talks about writing poetry. And then in the second sentence, he says, over the past months, I've dedicated time to refining my craft, and now I feel ready to share my work. And sharing his work is something that is exactly what the job post is asking about, right? They're asking for poets who are willing to share their work and submit their work, right? And so it is very, very personalized. You can see, even if we go further down in the proposal, you can see he goes in depth on poetry and what his specific poetry is typically like, right? His writing style for poetry, he goes really in depth. And since the job is all about poetry and asking poets to submit their poetry, this is all very, very personalized. So he gets a 3 out of 3. Now, the next grading criteria is social proof. And this proposal gets a 1 out of 3 for social proof. There's almost no social proof in here. And honestly, he kind of does the opposite of social proof. Right? You can see in the at the end of the first paragraph, he says, over the past months, I've dedicated time to refining my craft, and now I feel ready to share my work. And that kind of gives off the vibe that, okay, maybe you haven't been doing this for very long. Maybe you haven't been writing poetry for very long. So it's like the opposite of social proof, right? Whereas social proof, if he had a lot of social proof, it would build lots of trust, right? And examples of social proof could be like you have 10 years of experience. Maybe you've worked for the biggest companies in the world, right? Maybe if you're offering Google ads, you have spent $20 million on Google ads. All of those things would be examples of social proof, right? For Irvin, if he's written 100 poems he could say that in his proposal, and that would be a form of social proof, right? Having lots of completed projects. And so he could have done that, he didn't do that, and so you can see there's not really any social proof at any point in his proposal. I mean, he even kind of continues retracting from social proof. He says, at this point, I have several poems, some completed, others in need of editing or finishing, which honestly just kind of gives off the vibe that he probably hasn't done this very often or very long and just doesn't have a lot of experience, right? So for that reason, he's gonna get a 1 out of 3 on social proof. Now, when it comes to the call to action, Irvin doesn't really have one, right? He says, I'd be thrilled if my work resonates with you and we can build a working relationship. Looking forward to discussing this further and collaborating, right? And so this isn't really a call to action. And if you're not familiar with what a call to action is, it's basically when you ask the reader or the listener, the audience, to take a specific action, right? So I'll give you a couple examples. One might be, your call to action could say, if you liked my proposal, let's find a time to hop on a call. If there's any time that you're free this week or next, just send me a message and we can schedule that call. Something like that. Another example could be, I'd love to hear more about you and your project. Feel free to send me a message and we can connect over there, right? Now, that's kind of a soft call to action, but you get the idea. Like, you're prompting these people to take an action, opposed to what Irvin did, which really just said, looking forward to discussing this further. And he said, I'd be thrilled if my work resonates with you and we can build a working relationship. Neither of those things initiate any action for the client, right? And so for that reason, for the call to action, Irvin's gonna get a 1 out of 3. Now, the last element we're gonna be grading Irvin's proposal on is gonna be the portfolio. Now, depending on what service you're offering, the portfolio is gonna be one of the most important aspects of your entire proposal, right? And for Irvin, who is talking about his poetry, right, giving an example or multiple examples of his poetry is gonna be really important for the person potentially hiring him. Now, Irvin's gonna get a 2 out of 3 on this scale, primarily because you can see he attached an example of his work, a screenshot, and he does mention it. He does say, I'd like to attach a fragment of one poem I wrote last year. So he does give some example of his work, but he only attaches a fragment, like only part of the whole poem. So it's a little bit strange, I would say. You definitely want to give people full examples of your work. If you're a video editor, you don't just want to give them half the video. You want to show them the entire video, right? So that's the first reason that this is not a 3 out of 3 in terms of, the actual proposal, or excuse me, the actual portfolio section. The other thing I think Irvin could have done better is that if he were to actually put a link in the proposal instead of just attaching it as a screenshot, right? You want to make it more accessible and more obvious to clients that you're showing them examples of your work. And that brings Irvin's final score to a 7 out of 12, which isn't that great. Now, if Irvin wants to improve his proposal, the main areas for improvement are going to be, number one, social proof, right? Now, even if you don't have tons of social proof, you don't want to retract, right? And so you can see in Irvin's proposal, like we already talked about, he talks about how he is kind of new to this and how he hasn't written that many poems. And that's not very convincing, right? And so even if you don't have social proof, you don't want to talk about how you're absolutely brand new to the service, right? If you do have social proof, of course, you just want to talk about your social proof, mention how many years of experience you have in this, doing this service that the client wants. You can talk about how many projects you've completed, any impressive statistics you have, stuff like that is all very valid examples of social proof. The second biggest area for improvement is just having a clear call to action, and you could use either of the ones that I talked about when I was going over Irvin's proposal. And the third thing Irvin could do a lot better is attach portfolio links inside the proposal instead of just attaching a screenshot when you submit the proposal, right? Attach live links in your proposal and make sure you're giving clients full examples of your work, right? You don't want to just give them kind of like half a poem or half a video edit or whatever. You want to give them a really in-depth look at all of your work. And ideally, you can pack your Upwork portfolio full of examples of your work, and then you can just attach a link to your Upwork portfolio. That way they can see a bunch of different examples of your work, and they get a really good idea as to what your work is like. All right, so again, that is Irvin. He is 7 out of 12, and we're gonna move on to the next proposal right now. I'm excited to help share your articles with my big group of LinkedIn friends. I have over 1,000 followers who love to read what I post. My LinkedIn page is always busy, and I follow all the rules to make sure everything looks great. While I'm unable to provide a direct link to my profile here due to Upwork's guidelines, I can share more details and evidence of my follower count and engagement rates during a direct conversation. I'm happy to either write a new article or share one you've already written. Just tell me what you need. Thank you for considering me. I'm ready to start working with you and make your articles popular. Warm regards, Amna Conwall. And for context for everyone, this job description was looking for people who had LinkedIn profiles with over 500 followers who could help them write articles related to essay writing, right? So they wanted someone to write and publish articles related to essay writing. Now let's start grading this in terms of personalization. Now, in terms of personalization, this proposal gets a 3 out of 3. This is very personalized, right? And I want to point something out to you. You can see even in the first sentence, it says, I'm excited to help share your articles with my big group of LinkedIn friends. That's 100% personalized. That's exactly what the job post is asking for, right? And then she says, I have over 1,000 followers who love to read what I post. Again, that is 100% personalized, and that is exactly what the job poster really cares about, right? Because they mentioned specifically in the job post that everyone who they hire will need to have over 500 followers, right? And so Amna is saying to them that she has over 1,000 followers. So it is personalized and they do care about that. And honestly, the entire proposal, right, the first paragraph, the second paragraph, and even the third paragraph are 100% personalized. They all include very relevant details mentioned in the job description. And so for personalization, Amna gets a 3 out of 3. It's awesome. Now, when it comes to social proof, Amna is gonna get a 2 out of 3 because she does have social proof included in her proposal, but there's a lot of opportunity to expand on it even more and provide even more social proof. To just point this out to you, the current social proof she has is that she has over 1,000 followers who love to read what she posts. It's 100% personalized and it's also social proof, right? Because having 1,000 followers is a form of social proof, and we already know that it's important to the client because they mention it in the job description, right? So that's her form of social proof. I also think there's opportunity to go even more in depth, right? You can talk about how many years of experience you've been writing, because they care about writing, right? You can talk about how many articles you've published on LinkedIn. If you've published 150 articles, that's a lot of articles to publish. So that's a form of social proof, right? So incorporating these little details in here, and you could even have a full paragraph about your experience writing, right? And your experience writing essays on LinkedIn, articles on LinkedIn, right? And so that paragraph could have lots of kind of little bits of social proof in there about your years of experience, about how many articles you've written, et cetera, right? And so again, gonna get a 2 out of 3 on the social proof scale because Amna does have it in her proposal, but she could just go another step further and have even more of it. Now the call to action is the next grading criteria, and Amna is gonna get a 1 out of 3 because she doesn't really have a call to action in her proposal, right? And if you're not familiar, call to action is simply just, like we said, asking somebody to take an action, right? Asking the reader to take an action and do something. Now, Amna ends her proposal with, thank you for considering me. I'm ready to start working with you and make your articles popular, which doesn't really ask the client to do anything. Now, a couple of examples of potential call to actions for Amna could be, I'd love to help you out with your LinkedIn articles. Feel free to send me a message and we can connect. Something like that, right? Maybe she'd want to specify an Upwork message so they know not to message her on LinkedIn, but you get the idea, right? Another example could be, I'd love to learn more about your LinkedIn article project. Is there any time this week or next week that you're free for a quick call so we can review the details? Again, just prompting the client to take an action and to message her and say, yeah, Amna, I am free on Thursday, right? And then set up the call. Now, the portfolio is the final grading criteria that we have for Amna's proposal, and the portfolio is really tricky in this case because the client in the job description asks for her LinkedIn profile, but she can't actually send them her LinkedIn profile because it breaks Upwork's terms of service. And so I really like what she said when she says, I'm unable to provide a direct link to my profile here due to Upwork's guidelines, but I can share more details with you over a direct conversation. And I really like that, right? She's just explaining to the client why she's unable to give them a direct link to her LinkedIn profile, right? Because it breaks Upwork's terms of service and she could get banned for it. So good decision there, but we still want to have some sort of portfolio in these proposals, especially because Amna offers writing services. Although that's not a very visual service, people are still really going to want to see examples of her work. Instead of sending them, your LinkedIn profile, because you obviously can't do that, she could attach a link to her Upwork portfolio And inside that Upwork portfolio, she could put a bunch of different LinkedIn articles that she's written, right? She just copy them from LinkedIn, paste them into a Google Doc or whatever, right? A PDF, something like that. So that way you're still able to show the clients what your work is like, and that way she's not breaking any of Upwork's terms of service. And so for the portfolio, I gave her a 1 out of 3 because she doesn't really have any portfolio. Now I do understand where she's coming from, right? Because she doesn't want to attach a LinkedIn profile in her proposals because she could get banned. But at the same time, she definitely wants to be giving these clients examples of her work so they can actually see what her writing is like. And so that brings Amna's total to a 7 out of 12, which again is decent, but it's not great. Right? Now the biggest areas for Amna to improve this would be like we mentioned in the beginning, have more social proof, right? You can add a full other paragraph about your experience writing on LinkedIn, about your experience writing in general, right? Kind of your background in writing, right? That would help really quite a bit. Then you also need to have a call to action in there, whether you're asking the client to message you or get on a call with you, right? Now, if the project is like less than $300, I'd probably just ask the client to message you. If it's above $300, they'll probably want to get on a call with you anyway. So I would ask them to get on that call, and that is your call to action. And then Amna could also definitely improve in the portfolio and just be attaching examples of her work in there so that her clients actually can see examples of her work. Now, the good news for Amna is that these are all pretty easy fixes. So with that being said, let's dive into the next proposal. Now, this proposal says, "Hi, Maxim. Thank you so much for providing detailed information about your job. It instantly grabbed my attention and aligns perfectly with my experience as a UX UI designer, specializing in fintech applications. Relevant experience and work samples. While I may be new to Upwork, I have extensive experience in UX UI design, particularly in banking and fintech applications. I hold a master's in finance and business analytics and have worked with various banking and fintech startups, giving a deep understanding of secure authentication flows and user experience best practices. My previous projects outside Upwork have received excellent feedback, and I'm excited to bring the same level of quality to your project. I have attached examples that showcase my expertise and align with your project requirements. Why choose me? Here's what you should know about me. Fintech expertise. Experience in designing secure and intuitive banking applications with authentication features like biometric login, OTP verification, and 2FA. High fidelity prototypes. Skilled in Figma, delivering interactive prototypes that enhance the user journey. User-centric and accessible designs. Strong knowledge of accessibility and usability best practices to ensure a seamless experience of all users. Fast iterations and feedback-based improvements. Ability to refine designs efficiently based on your input. My approach to this project. To ensure the best user experience and security compliance, I will follow these key steps. Research and wireframing, understanding fintech security guidelines and creating low fidelity wireframes to establish the best UX flow. High fidelity UI design, implementing clean, modern, and accessible interfaces that align with the industry standards. Prototype and interaction design, showcasing screen transitions and micro interactions for a seamless experience. Usability testing and final adjustments, ensuring the design is intuitive, accessible, and user-friendly. Let's connect. I'm available all day and would love to schedule a quick 10-minute introduction call to discuss the project further. If you have any preferred time, just let me know. Questions for the call. Are there any specific branding guidelines or UI inspirations you'd like to follow? Should the design be optimized for both light and dark mode? Will there be any additional authentication steps beyond biometrics, OTP, and 2FA? I've attached also my onboarding process to give you a clear view of what is my approach. Looking forward to hearing more about your exciting project and how I can contribute. Best regards, Mohammed. Now, for context for everyone, this job post was looking for a UX UI designer to basically create a sign-in or login or sign-up page for their banking app. Now, personalization is going to be the first criteria we're going to grade this proposal on. And in terms of personalization, this is 3 out of 3. This is very, very personalized, right? You can see here in the second paragraph, Mohammed goes really in depth on his experience working with fintech startups and even more specifically, how he holds a master's degree in finance and business analytics, and he's worked with various banking and fintech startups, which gives him a deep understanding of secure authentication flows and user experience best practices. So he's basically, this is all personalized very obviously, and he's talking about his extensive experience doing exactly what this company needs him to do, right? He's got extensive experience working with banking and fintech startups, and he knows, all about their security measures and their login features and all that stuff, right? And so it's very, very personalized. Not only that, but if you go a little bit further down in the proposal, when he says, here's what you should know about me. He says fintech expertise, talks about his experience, in designing secure and intuitive banking applications with authentication features like biometric login, OTP verification, and 2FA. And all three of those things are mentioned in the job description. Those are specific details that he pulled out and put into his proposal, which is awesome, right? So for those reasons, 3 out of 3 personalization, it looks really solid. Now, the second criteria we're gonna grade this proposal on is social proof. And for social proof, I'd give this a 2 out of 3 because while it does have some social proof in it, I wanna go even one more step deeper and give even more social proof. And so the social proof that Mohammed currently has is really when he talks all about his extensive experience working for financial institutions and banking apps and helping them with their applications, right? And the UX UI design of their applications. And he also says that he has a master's in finance and business analytics, right? And he's worked with various banking and fintech startups. And I love that, right? That gives him a very unique advantage over everybody else, right? Because there's probably not a ton of other UX UI designers who are applying to that job who have extensive experience working with fintech startups and specifically banking mobile applications, right? It's very, very niche. And so it's personalized, but it's also a form of social proof. That's kind of both the positive and the negative. Most of the social proof for Mohammed is about his experience in the banking industry and helping, banking companies and how he holds a master's degree in financial and business analytics. And that's all great. But I would also love to have him show some social proof on like the UX UI design side, right? Like how many projects has he completed in the last, how many years of experience he has, right? How many projects he's completed, right? Like talking about years of experience and projects and stuff like that and going one layer deeper and providing, social proof on like the industry side of things, which he already has, but also providing social proof on like the service side of things, right? And so talking about years of experience, any big companies he's worked with, mentioning like specific big banks that he's worked with could be a really nice way to incorporate kind of both of those, right? Both those forms of social proof. Obviously, if he's helped them with UX UI design. But that is why I'm gonna give this a 2 out of 3 on the social proof scale, because he does have some social proof and he does have nice social proof, but I think he could go one layer deeper and just talk about more of the social proof when it comes to UX UI design, right? So like we said, years of experience in UX UI design, projects he's completed, big companies you work for, any impressive stats you might have, right? Stuff like that. Now, when it comes to the call to action, I give this a 3 out of 3, right? He has a call to action and it's almost perfect. Now, his call to action was, I'm available all day and would love to schedule a quick 10-minute introduction call to discuss the project further. If you have any preferred time, just let me know. Now, the one thing I would change about this is I probably wouldn't tell someone you're available all day. I know that might sound a little contradictory, but if you say like, I'm available all day, it kind of seems like you don't have any work, right? So like, I would probably slightly rephrase that. I get what he's saying, but I probably wouldn't admit to someone that I'm free like the entirety of every day, right? So other than that, I think it's awesome. He clearly states he wants to get on a call with the clients, which is correct. He should want to get on a call, and he just asks them when he's free or when that client is free for that quick 10-minute introductory call. So I love it. I think it's almost perfect, and I give it a 3 out of 3. Now, one other thing I do want to mention when it comes to the call to action is that below his call to action, he lists a bunch of questions that he wants to ask on the call. Now, I wouldn't do that. Save your questions for when you actually get on the call, right? You don't need to overwhelm clients by putting a bunch of different questions in your proposals. Just let them read your proposal, which is all about you and how you're going to be able to help them. And then once you get on the call, that's the time to start asking questions, right? Now, this isn't directly related to the call to action because it's not the call to action. So I don't want to dock him points for that, but he could just improve his overall proposal by removing those questions. Now, when it comes to the portfolio section, which is the last section we're gonna grade his proposal on, I gave him a 2 out of 3 because he does attach examples of his work to his proposal, but he doesn't have any live links inside of his proposal. Now, I'd recommend a couple things to him. Number one, have live links to websites or mobile applications where you have designed the UX UI design for it, right? It's not against any of Upwork's terms of service if you link your client's website in your proposal, right? As long as you don't link a website that has your contact info, then you're totally fine. And so I would highly recommend just linking websites or SaaS platforms or mobile applications that he has designed the UX UI design for in his proposal. And that way people can get a really good look as to what it actually looks like, what his work looks like, and how it feels, right? And how it really is. Now the portfolio section is the last section we're gonna grade his proposal on. And I gave him a 2 out of 3. The reason is he does have files attached to the proposal, but none of them are like live links. And so what I would recommend for Mohammed is, this job is all about banking and it's about mobile applications. So I would want to attach live links to any mobile applications you have designed the UX UI for. As a side note, you might also want to link like one website or 2 websites because they will probably have to download the apps in order to actually get an idea as to like what your work is. Whereas they can just click the website links and they can check them out. And it doesn't break any of Upwork's terms of service to do this. As long as you're linking mobile apps or websites that don't have your contact info in them, then it's totally fine. And by linking a website or a mobile app, the client is gonna be able to really tell how good Mohammed is at his job. He's gonna be able to really like play around with the user interface. He's gonna download the app and check it out and see what Mohammed's work is really like, right? And so for that reason, he could have done better. He could have attached live links, but like I said, he did attach, files to the proposal. So he did have it included. It could just, be improved quite a bit, right? So for that reason, I gave him a 2 out of 3. And so that brings Mohammed's score to 10 out of 12, which is pretty good. Now, the main areas for improvement for Mohammed's proposal are, number 1, getting live links, right? Links to websites in mobile applications that you have designed. Getting those links in your proposal is gonna really help. Right? So that's thing number 1. Thing number 2 is that he should delete the section that he has that has all of the questions for the potential call that he would get on with the client. Right? He can delete that. That's not going to do any good. Same thing goes for his onboarding process. Right? He says he attached a link to his onboarding process to give the client a better idea of what it's like working with him. I delete that too. It's not relevant yet. Right? You'll talk about all of that once you get on the call with the client, but he doesn't need to be discussing it in his proposal. Another thing I want to point out here is that in the beginning of his proposal, he says, "Thank you so much for providing detailed information about your job. It instantly grabbed my attention and it aligns perfectly with my experience as a UX UI designer specializing in fintech applications." Now, the first 3/4 of those 2 sentences, he doesn't need to have, right? The one that says, "Thank you so much for providing detailed information about your job," you can just get rid of that, right? It's completely irrelevant, it's useless. And so I would start your proposal with more social proof and just lead with the personalization and social proof, right? You can cut kind of the fluff of it out. And if I'm getting really picky here, I would probably turn his 3rd paragraph, the one that says, "Here's what you should know about me," I would turn that paragraph, instead of being a list, right, of bullet points, I would combine those bullet points and just create a full paragraph that talks all about his services, that talks about all about his experience offering those services, both the UX UI design experience he has and also experience helping banking and fintech applications, right? And that's really picky. But overall, 10 out of 12 is a really solid score. So with that being said, guys, that's all I've got for today's video. If you like this video, make sure to leave a like down below and also leave a comment. Let me know that you liked the video and let me know if you want to see more proposal review videos just like this. And if you're trying to sign high-paying clients on Upwork, check out my YouTube channel where I have over 70 videos posted all about how to sign high-paying clients on Upwork. All right, so with that being said, I'll see you in the next video.